Hi guys, welcome to my video. Today we're going to do a video on overclocking a graphics card. It's a GTX970 from MSI. It's quite a good graphics card, been using it for a little while now, but it's time to try and get a bit more performance out of it. This particular computer, it's got an i5 2500K in it that I overclocked in a previous video, and it's currently running at 4.5. The energy saving features are currently on it though. Some of the software you're going to need, this hardware monitor, it tells us how fast the processor is running. It also tells us how fast the graphics card's running. It also gives us the graphics card voltages, graphics card temperatures, fan speeds, etc. This particular graphics card, the fans don't spin on it until it hits about 60 degrees C, and then the fans start spinning. So first thing we need to do is we need to do a bench line test. So I'm going to use the Heaven benchmark, and we're going to do basically a bench line. We're going to bench the graphics card and see how good it is currently, and in the background I'm going to keep this hardware monitor running, and we're going to get a bench line score, and then we're going to overclock the graphics card and compare this run to the overclock run to make sure it's worthwhile. So I'm just going to run this now and get a benchmark out of it. So I've just started it up. This will tell us basically how good our graphics card's running. So at the top here, if we go to benchmark, and we can run this benchmark, it's benchmarking. We'll run this benchmark and see how good it goes. I'm currently recording this on my camera because when you overclock the graphics card, the PC can crash, and we can be using more resources if I use recording software. So at least this way I get a proper reading of the graphics card score. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this, get the benchmark. I'm going to cut some of this video out so you don't see all this bit in the middle, and then we'll compare the scores. At the bottom here, it just tells you what the frame rate is, time, the min frames and the max frames, and what scene it's on. At the top here, it just gives us an idea of what we're running currently and the speed of the graphics card. Okay, so we've just done the benchmark. We can tell there what the CPU is, a few other bits of information, but the important thing here is the frames per second was 115.4. We've got a score of 2,906, min frames per second 32.7, and a max of 239.5. So overall that's pretty good. We're going to see what we can push it to. Right, so the bit of software I'm going to use is MSI Afterburner. I think lots of people have probably already used this before. Let's just run this. Right, so we've got MSI Afterburner on, and if you look there, it's all running on stock, all stock settings. It's running very slow at the minute because it's not being asked to do any work. So these are all the stock settings. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this benchmark, but not the actual benchmark. I'm just going to run it. Right, so what I really want, I want the benchmark running in the background, or the CPU load running in the background, and I want to see what MSI Afterburner is doing, and I also want to monitor what's happening here as well in hardware monitor. You can see now the graphics core shot up to 1342 or 1341 there, and this is its base clock speed. So when we overclock, basically what we're going to do is we're going to push the power limit up a little bit. So we're at 100% at the minute. I'm actually just going to go up a fraction on this. I don't need a maximum overclock out of this. I'm just after a little bit of an overclock, and it's doing the priority on the power limit. So I'm going to click here and set it to temperature. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep pushing the clock, the core clock, until this graphics, the graphics on this piece of software crashes. And when you push the core clock, generally it ends up in a hard crash on the system that you usually can recover from if you work up slowly. So the key thing is with overclocking, try and do it slowly, and that way you can recover from it without having to shut the computer down and back on again generally. But then what we're going to do is going to push the memory clock a bit faster. What tends to happen when you push the memory clock is you get glitches in the screen that you can see, so you know you've gone too far. So at the minute I think I'm going to work on a 105 power limit, and we'll see what we can do. So I know this graphics card, we can get a bit more speed out of it, so what we need to do is adjust the setting here. So we've now got plus 131, and I'm going to say OK to that. So if you look now, the base clock is running at 472, so it's got that that extra on it. Right, so let's do it reasonably coarse at the minute. What you can do, instead of just clicking along here, you can actually click the 131 here and just type in what you want, 150 for example, and enter. OK to that. So if you look, the core's now gone up 4291. Graphics card's still running at 69C, which is OK. We're not adding any extra voltage onto here yet. So I'd normally go up about 10 megahertz, but I know roughly what this can do, this card. So it's got to 190. So OK to that. So now we're running at 1531 base clock. For some reason on Afterburner it doesn't actually change at the top here. It's still at 1455. If I was to run this again, stop it and run it again, that would change to the true speed, which is shown here, plus the boost speed, so it'd be quite a bit higher than that. Right, so let's just try and work out what we can get out of it, just at this power limit of 105. Originally the card was pulling about 140 watts, 130 to 140 watts, and you can monitor that here. So that's telling me the power, 140 watts at the minute, and it is so far peaked at 154, so it's gone up a fraction to what we had there originally, just by increasing this core clock. Now I know at this power setting this car can run at 195. I also know it can actually run at 220, but as an overclock to use all the time, I tend to run it at 195. Let's try and work it up slowly to find out what happens. I don't really need this bit of software at the minute, so I want to get rid of that. Let's go up a bit more, 210. As soon as you get a crash, what you want to do is go back onto this undo, which will take the overclock off, and that way hopefully you don't need to restart the system. So it's still running in the background. Let's go up to 220. Still running. So saying I normally run this at 195 because I know it runs stable at 195 all the time. So I'm just going to go up very slowly now. So I'm going to 222. It's a sort of thing where if the graphics card's running really cool, you might get away with a slightly higher core speed. But as soon as it starts to warm up, it can crash again. So temperature does play a bit of a part. Let's go a bit more. 225. Actually, it's running quite well at the minute. There. still running. Two, three, five. Two, 2, 3, 8. There you go, it's crashed. So we're undo and undo. Right, so that's what we were looking for. So at 238 it crashed. Whenever you're overclocking the graphics card, it's best to use a couple of different programs, bits of different software, which is one of the reasons why I tend to come down quite a bit on the core clock to what I get on any one program, and then I'll run it at that instead of having to test it on lots of different programs. But if you're after the last bit of performance, you can test it on lots of different programs and see how you go. Right, so I know, you know, 230 is sort of on the edge. So I think the core clock, let's go for 210. Right, so I've applied the core clock. We're now at 210. And now I'm going to overclock the memory. So memory, normally you can go up quite a bit more. So let's go up a bit faster. Let's go plus 440 and apply that, see what happens. So you can see there now the memory shot up to 3947 and it's still stable. Again, I don't tend to go right at the very edge of overclocking because I don't want all the little crashes. I want it to be 100% stable 100% of the time. There you go, it's just crashed. There you go, the system just crashed then. Yeah, and it's playing up now. There you go. I think actually that crash wasn't really a memory crash, it looked like a core crash actually. So let's go back to 200 on the core. It looked like a core crash, that. Okay. Right, so let's go back to the memory. And I think we're at 440. Let's go 460. Apply that. And the reason I said it was a core crash, it was like a hard crash. It wasn't sort of glitching everywhere, which is more of a memory crash. So we're running at plus 200, plus 460 at the minute. Let's push it a bit harder. Let's go 490. Again, it still looks good, no glitching. Let's move this down a fraction. Still no glitching. 520. Right, so we've now got over 4000 megahertz on the memory and 1528 on the base clock. That's not bad. Let's see if we can go a bit higher on the memory. So what happens, I'll try and show you what happens if you go too far. Let's go for 550. So now we're running the memory at 550. It still seems okay at the minute. I think this is sort of on the edge of what this card will do at this setting. So I'd probably run about 500 plus on the memory to make sure it's 100% stable again. So let's try and push it a bit harder. I'll try and show you what happens when it crashes. So I've got 560. Let's just move this over this way a bit so we can see what's going on. And what we're after now is little tiny glitches. Still seems to run okay. Let's go for 580. Ah, there. Yeah, there you go. It's glitching. Almost like sunshine across the screen there. So that's definitely, it shouldn't have been there. So this is on the edge now at 580 plus 580. There you go, it's glitching there again. Sometimes you get little glitches, sometimes they're bigger. Let's push it a bit further and see if we can make it a bit more obvious. Let's go for 590. There you go. Some purple then in the middle of the screen. And we just crashed. Yeah, and this program just crashed then. So yeah, so we're at 590. So I think what I would do is probably run that at about 200 and probably around 500. I think that seemed reasonably stable then. It should be reasonably stable. So what I'll do is we'll go back to the settings that I want. So I think I'm going to go to 195. So I'm going to go plus 195 on the core, and the memory I think we'll put plus 500 in. Again, you don't want to go too close to the edge. So we got plus 195 plus 500, and we're going to go to 105. So we've got 106 power limit. Apply that. Right, so plus 195 plus 500, and we'll do a baseline on this. As we can see on this second benchmark, the graphics clock's now at 1650 and the memory's at 4005. So it's quite a bit faster than the original baseline that we did. Okay, so we made it through the benchmark overclocked, and we've now got a frames per second 131.8, score of 3319, min frames 33.7, and the max is going to now go up to 274.1. So that's quite a lot better than what it was before. So definitely worthwhile doing. Right, so the fan speed's now gone down. When this car goes below 60, fans go off. What you can do is, once you've got an overclock that you're really happy with in MSI Afterburner, there's a Windows startup button just here. So you can actually click this button, and when the PC starts up, this overclock will automatically go on it. All the energy saving features will still be left on. It's just the maximums will go up to these figures here, plus 195 plus 500, if you press this button on. Now I'd warn against pressing it on. Make sure you've got a completely stable, and you've tried it out a few times, you know it works on all programs, etc., and then hit the startup button. You don't want the graphics card to be unstable and you can't get into Windows and whatever. So yeah, just a bit of a warning. Right, in the settings for this, I've got the GTX970. There's actually one that says unlock voltage control. I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick go on that and see if it makes any difference. So that one there, unlock voltage control, right. So because this is an MSI graphics card and it's MSI software, it's allowed me to unlock that voltage control in millivolts there, plus 16. So we've got the millivolts there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a crack at this, and we'll try and add a bit more voltage. let's go up to plus 30. Up to plus 30, and we'll take this power limit up to 110. Let's make it 110. Let's apply that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this profile to start with. So we're going to start back where we left off, but I've now got a core voltage plus 30 millivolts. And I'll save this profile. So let's unlock this and save profile. So I've clicked that save profile, and we'll click it at number 5. So we'll just save profile number 5 with these settings. So what we're going to do is now we're going to run the same bit of software, check for stability, and then run a benchmark. I'm going to skip a few bits and bobs, and I'll try and show you more of the end result. As you can see here, I've just put an offset on the voltage, and we're now gone up a bit. We're now pulling around 163 watts. And I've put the core per fraction. Right guys, I had a real good mess around with this system now. Now I've unlocked the core voltage and I put it to maximum, power limit to maximum, the temp limit to maximum. Now the reality is I wasn't getting over about a 230 on the core, 235 it was crashing on. So I'm not getting that much more by unlocking the voltage and pushing things to max than what I was before. So I think the key thing is here, I just keep to the setting that I had pretty much almost originally. So I've messed around with it, and I think the key thing here is by adding more voltage and whatever, I'm not really getting any extra speed out of it. I can keep the power limit on 105, the temp limit there stays on 85. This graphics card's got 2 decent fans on it, so temperature's not really a problem. The core clock, the best stable core clock I found was 195, and the best memory clock was 510. And that seems to work really well on just about everything I've tested it on. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching my video.